Today is Thursday, September 3rd. This is the Bethlehem Buzz. This coming Sunday is the first Sunday of the month. It's September 6th. We will be offering worship on YouTube again. You can get to us through our YouTube channel, so join us. The following Sunday, the 13th, will be our first in-person worship it's been a long time. So you can get information about that through this Buzz link and also through the website to tell you what to expect. It'll be one service at 11 o'clock, and it will give you a sense of what the requirements are, what will be expected of you, and also a place where you can register to attend. Because of distancing, we are limited in how many can come. So I invite you to register your attendance for that service on the 13th. But this Sunday is the 6th. It is a communion Sunday, so be prepared to celebrate Holy Communion together. Download the order that includes the liturgy for Holy Communion. Have your elements ready, your crackers and grape juice or your bread and wine. And again, I appreciate how you have responded to the request to treat the elements as sacred, and particularly in how we dispose the elements. So join us for Holy Communion and worship. I'm going to be preaching again from Paul's letter to the Romans. This time it'll be from chapter 13, verses 8 through 14. And Paul says in that passage something very familiar. He says, all of the commandments are summed up in one word. And that word is love your neighbor as yourself. That sounds very familiar to us, doesn't it? It echoes what Jesus said, and when he was asked what's the greatest commandment, and he was echoing what Deuteronomy and Leviticus said, which was echoing what God wills for us. The greatest commandment, he says, is to love God with your whole being and love your neighbor as you love yourself. Sounds simple, doesn't it? Love God, love your neighbor. But it's not so simple, particularly when you have a neighbor who is obnoxious and rude and loud, who parks his RV on the street where it makes it difficult for you to pull out, back out on your road, who's got 10 political signs in his yard that is not your candidate, who is just somebody who is difficult to be around, and you just soon that he go away. Yes, that's who Jesus is saying and who Paul is echoing that we're called to love. To love our neighbor no matter who our neighbor is, and really no matter where our neighbor is. It doesn't have to be somebody in your neighborhood or across the street or next door. And sometimes it's very difficult, and not just sometimes, it is difficult to love your neighbor who isn't easy to love. So how do we do it? I'm thinking about something else that Jesus talked about that relates. When he talked about forgiveness and forgiving someone who may be difficult to forgive. And the key is that we can't really offer something that we don't have, whether it be love or forgiveness. In that parable, he tells of a servant who owes the king $1 million. And when Jesus said $1 million, they all laughed, because how in the world could a servant making a servant's wages owe the king $1 million? And they laughed even harder when the servant said, well, just give me more time and I'll pay it back. Well, not in 1,000 years could a servant pay back $1 million. So the king forgives the debt. Says you don't owe anything. The debt that you owe, the balance is zero. Go and live your life. Enjoy living. You don't owe anything. Well, the servant could not believe he didn't owe anything. And so thinking he still had to repay the king, he went out and found people who owed him and began debt collecting. And when he encountered somebody who owed him $20, he said, pay me the $20 or I will throw you in prison. And when the man could not pay, he threw him into debtor's prison until he could pay back everything. Now why? Why couldn't somebody who had been forgiven this tremendous debt of $1 million not forgive a little debt of $20? Of course, when the king heard about this, he was not pleased. Well, again, I think the answer is we cannot give what we do not have, or in the case of this servant, what he doesn't believe he has. We cannot offer love to someone who's difficult to love if we don't have the love of Christ in us. If we're not living love and have that love, then we can't give it away. We can't share what we don't have. So the key is to accepting the love that God has for us. And with that love, we can then love others. So join us on Sunday, and it'll be communion, and we'll talk more about how we can love our neighbor. So have a blessed day, and I'll hopefully be seeing you in worship soon.